This is the Experienced Optimist, and I want to go over a article called "The Death of a Man." And basically, what this article is about is what happens to a man when he allows his girlfriend to control, manipulate, and dominate him. This is from the perspective of the writer, and how he views his friend when he comes back to America after a long trip. It's basically a cautionary tale about how a man and how we as MGTOW men should not allow ourselves to be simped out, akin to being pimped out by women. A lot of men allow women to control and dominate them in relationships. And this is just the writer's viewpoint of how this particular woman dominated his friend so much so that he didn't even recognize his friend anymore. So let's begin with the article. It starts out: being away for extended amounts of time changes your awareness in multiple ways. You get off the plane and get introduced to a whole new way of life. The people are friendlier, the girls are sexier, and life is more rewarding. The second realization happens when you return home. The country and city that you called home for so long suddenly looks foreign and unrecognizable. And your friends are no longer who you remember them to be. I've only been back in America for a week when a friend called me out of the blue. I heard you were in town. You should stop by and see my new apartment. Sure, sounds good. I haven't seen him in ages, but we still kept in touch occasionally. While I was living in Brazil, I sent him a constant stream of pictures and stories. He promised to visit. He never did. I took a train to his place, which was located just outside the city. 15 minutes later, I reached his station and got off. He picked me up and we drove to his apartment. His place was empty when we came in. I knew he recently moved in with his girlfriend, but certainly didn't mind her absence. This would give us the opportunity to catch up and discuss guy stuff, like my recent debauchery in Brazil. That joy wouldn't last long. 15 minutes later, I heard someone fiddling with the locks. Suddenly the door opened and she barged in. It was his girlfriend. She entered the living room and in one smooth and rapid motion tossed her bag and jacket on the couch. Then, like RoboCop, she began scanning the environment. She noticed me in her crosshairs. She immediately stopped, fixated her gaze, and began sizing me up. Not waiting for my friend to introduce us, she came to me, extended her hand, and introduced herself. From that point on, she would do all the talking. How many times we've been there, fellas? She didn't waste any time. She began peppering me with questions. She asked me about my trips. She asked me how I felt to be back in the real world. Her tone was inquisitive and condescending at the same time. She interrupted me a few times. The highlight of the conversation was when she snidely asked if I was ready to date real women, i.e., American women, instead of easy Brazilian sluts. I remained seated, barely uttering a word. Like a respectful guest, I waited for her to finish so I could return back to the activity that she so brazenly interrupted. I waited patiently for her to realize the obvious, that I didn't come this far to deal with her. I came to see my friend. And the sooner she made herself useful by getting the fuck out of the way, the better it would be. As soon as I finished that thought, I made another crucial realization. Why am I dealing with her in the first place? Shouldn't this be my friend's job? I didn't come this far to deal with some controlling cunt with a chip on her shoulder. There was one problem. My friend was nowhere to be found. Feeling anxious and desperate, I started frantically scanning the place for him. I remember that as soon as she barged in, get this, guys, he quietly excused himself to go to the bathroom. I got ambushed. Finally, I noticed something or someone. It was him, sort of. He was, get this, sitting quietly with his knees touching. He was in the corner on the far side of the couch, as far away as possible from the onslaught of his overbearing girlfriend. He tried to remain calm and composed, but his eyes told the real story. His gaze was fixed at the wall directly in front. He was mortified. I was disgusted at what I saw, or rather didn't see. What I no longer saw was a man who could stand up to the world, much less his omnipotent girlfriend. Instead, what I saw in his place was just a disgraceful sack of flesh and liquids. A hefty bag filled with mush. The man that I used to know was long gone. He was dead. I wanted to say something. I opened my mouth but immediately closed it. I knew saying anything would be futile. It was too late. It didn't matter. None of my words would change the reality. I stared at the menacing bitch towering over me. She was still barking at me, and it was an endless diarrhea of snarky and belittling questions and comments. She was angry. I was disillusioned. I couldn't remember when was the last time in human history that a man was held captive in his own home by a woman. But this wasn't a man anymore. He was just a shell of his former self. It was like I was stuck in some matrix, a hyper-reality where everything is upside down and nothing makes sense anymore. A twilight zone. Like a master signaling his dog, I motioned a sack of flesh to take me back to the station. My time here was over. I was silent on the ride back. A week later, he emailed me. His email began with, and get this, guys, Jessica and I. Contempt slowly grew over my sullen face. He no longer refers to himself as a separate entity. I felt disgusted. I felt repulsed. I didn't reply. I never saw him again. And that's the end of the article. And this is what happens to so many men when they get into a relationship with a woman. They allow the woman to take over. They devalue the relationships that they had with the men in their lives, men that would probably go the extra mile for them, may even catch a bullet for them. I read this article because I wanted it to be a cautionary tale of why, as a man, you should not allow a woman to dominate you in a relationship. This type of woman that was belittling and condescending, this is not the type of woman you want with you when your back's against the wall. She won't help you. At best, she'll probably make fun of you. The people that you want in your life are the strong men that you grew up with, that you formed bonds with, that you have camaraderie with. This is one of the things I never really understood about men and their friends. They'll have good friends that will do everything for them, Then they'll get with a woman and then they'll jettison their friends. And then they'll be with that woman until she takes him for all he's got or cheats on him or begins to mistreat him. And then they'll go back to their friends with the sob story of, yeah, man, hey, Brian, hey, Mark, man, you guys were right, man. Sorry about that, man. Bros before hoes, bro. I won't let that happen again. And then guess what happens? He meets another girl, same thing happens again. This is one of the things as men, as MGTOW men, I believe that we need to stop from happening. Just like this man, he died a metaphorical death. The same thing doesn't have to happen to us. We need to value the relationships that are strong amongst us men. Value them. And value ourselves enough to where we do not allow women to, quite frankly, kill our spirit. But if you like this video, give a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the notification button. Check out other MGTOW channels. And I'll talk to you later.